The rancher saved her from the deadly canyon, and she said, "From today, I am yours." From the small ranch nearby, the air was crisp and fresh, carrying the earthy scent of pine and dry grass. Birds sang softly in the trees, and the distant sound of a creek trickled through the valley. Life on the ranch had always been quiet, predictable, and full of routines that the rancher cherished deeply. He loved the peacefulness of the land, the sound of the horses' hooves, the lowing of cows, and the smell of hay in the early morning. To him, this simple life was enough. It was calm, safe, and familiar, a world he understood better than anyone else. But the canyon, with all its beauty, held a secret danger. The cliffs were steep and unforgiving, the rocks sometimes loose and treacherous, and hidden trails twisted in ways that could confuse even the most experienced hiker. Many travelers had come seeking adventure here, drawn by the breathtaking views, but not all of them knew the risks. And sometimes, even the smallest mistake could turn into something life-threatening. On this particular morning, a young woman had come to explore the canyon. She was not from the area. Her life had been full of cities, crowds, and busy streets. She had never known the quiet, wild beauty of a place like this until now. The idea of wandering freely, climbing rocky paths, and seeing the world from high above thrilled her. She moved with excitement, her steps light and her eyes wide with wonder. Every new view, every turning trail, and every sudden drop that revealed a stunning panorama filled her with awe. The wind played through her hair, and she laughed softly, feeling alive in a way she never had in her ordinary life. She did not notice, at first, the small warning signs, the cracked rocks near the edge of the cliff, the loose soil underfoot, and the subtle signs that the canyon could be dangerous. To her, it was a world of adventure and beauty, a place to escape the ordinary and feel the thrill of freedom. She climbed higher and higher, moving closer to the edge without thinking about the consequences. Her mind was full of excitement, not caution. She stopped often to take pictures, leaning slightly over the edge to capture the best angles, unaware that every step could be dangerous. Meanwhile, the rancher began his day as he always did. He rose early, as the sun peeked over the cliffs, feeding the animals and checking the fences. His hands were strong from years of hard work, his eyes sharp and alert, and his mind always aware of the land around him. He knew every curve of the canyon, every hidden ledge, every trail that could be dangerous. The rancher had grown up here, had learned from experience, and had seen travelers make mistakes that could cost them dearly. He had saved people before, quietly and without seeking recognition. To him, helping someone in danger was just part of life. It was what needed to be done. That morning, as he finished feeding the horses, he noticed a figure moving along one of the trails near the canyon. At first, it seemed normal, a hiker exploring the area, but something made him tense. The figure was moving closer to a part of the cliff known to be unstable. The rancher squinted, his instincts telling him to watch carefully. He could see her backpack, her hair glowing in the sunlight, and the way she leaned forward over the edge to take photos. Every step she took made the ground beneath her shift slightly. The rancher's heart beat a little faster. He knew the canyon too well. He had seen too many people underestimate its dangers. As she climbed, she felt free, unaware of the danger she was in. Her laughter echoed across the canyon as she balanced carefully along narrow paths. Her mind was full of excitement, imagining herself as a brave adventurer conquering the cliffs. She did not notice the small rocks sliding beneath her feet or the way the soil gave slightly with each step. She was completely absorbed in the thrill, in the views, in the sense of being alive. The rancher decided to follow her, keeping a careful distance. He did not want to scare her, but he also could not let her go any further without warning. He moved quickly yet silently over the rocks, his experience allowing him to navigate the trails safely. He had spent his life on this land and knew every hidden danger. As he approached, he noticed the subtle signs that the cliff near her was particularly unstable. A small slip here could lead to a serious fall. Meanwhile, the woman finally reached a narrow ledge that offered a perfect view of the canyon below. She leaned over, smiling and taking photos, completely absorbed in the moment. The wind picked up slightly, brushing against her face, and she laughed, feeling the thrill of being on the edge. But just as she moved to get a better angle, the loose rocks beneath her feet shifted. She felt the ground give way slightly, and her heart jumped. She froze, gripping the rock in panic, realizing that she had underestimated the canyon's danger. At that moment, the rancher was close enough to see her clearly. His heart tightened as he saw the fear in her eyes and the precarious position she was in. He did not hesitate. With careful steps, he moved closer, calling out softly, "Hey, you need to be careful. Step back slowly." His voice was calm but firm, carrying over the canyon. She looked up, startled, and relief flooded her face as she saw him. In that instant, she realized that someone experienced was there to help her, and a small spark of hope replaced her fear. The rancher assessed the situation quickly. He noticed the loose rocks, the narrow ledge, and her unsteady stance. He knew that if she moved without guidance, she could easily slip and fall. He extended his hand, keeping his balance carefully. "Take my hand," he said calmly. "I'll get you out safely." She hesitated for a moment, fear still gripping her, but then she reached out. The rancher's grip was firm and steady, and she felt the security she had been missing. Step by step, he guided her away from the edge, moving slowly and carefully. He talked to her in a calm voice, encouraging her to stay focused and not panic. With every step, the danger lessened, and the woman began to trust him completely. She realized that without his experience and bravery, she might not have made it safely. The rush of adrenaline was still there, but now it was mixed with gratitude and awe. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the rancher led her to a safe part of the canyon where the ground was solid and stable. She collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily, her heart still racing. The rancher knelt beside her, checking that she was okay, and smiled reassuringly. "You're safe now," he said. "Just take it slow. This place is beautiful, but it can be dangerous if you're not careful." The woman looked at him, her eyes wide with gratitude. She had come seeking adventure, excitement, and freedom, but she had found something else, someone who could protect her, guide her, and be there when danger struck. She realized how close she had come to serious harm, and how fortunate she was to have met someone so capable and caring. As they walked back toward the ranch, the morning sun continued to climb higher in the sky, warming the land and casting soft shadows across the canyon. The woman kept glancing at the rancher, feeling a mix of admiration and curiosity. She wanted to know more about him, about how someone could be so calm and strong in a moment of danger. The rancher, meanwhile, remained quiet, focused on getting her safely back to solid ground. But inside, he felt a quiet satisfaction. Saving her had been instinctive, natural, something he did without thinking, but he also knew that this encounter was different. There was something in her eyes, something genuine that made him feel a connection he had never expected. By the time they reached the ranch, the woman's fear had subsided, replaced by relief and a growing sense of respect for the man who had saved her. She realized that the canyon was not just a place of beauty and adventure. It was a place that demanded respect, caution, and sometimes a helping hand from someone who truly understood it. The rancher had been that hand, and in that moment a silent bond formed between them, one that neither of them fully understood yet, but that would shape the days to come. That morning, the canyon had tested courage, skill, and instinct. It had reminded them both of the fragility of life and the strength that can come from experience, quick thinking, and compassion. For the woman, it was a lesson in humility and gratitude. For the rancher, it was a quiet affirmation of his place in the world, a protector of those who ventured into the wild beauty he knew so well. And as they stood together, looking out at the vast expanse of cliffs, rocks, and trees. Neither could have guessed that this encounter would mark the beginning of something far greater than the canyon itself. The moment the canyon showed its true danger had finally arrived. The woman had ventured farther than she should have, her curiosity and excitement leading her along a narrow ledge that hugged the cliff's edge. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting a bright light over the canyon, but the beauty of the scene could not hide the peril beneath her feet. Loose rocks crunched under her shoes, small stones skittering down the slope below. Every step felt unsteady, yet she pressed on, her mind so focused on the breathtaking view that she failed to notice how unstable the ground had become. Then, in an instant, disaster struck. A patch of rock gave way beneath her, and she lost her balance. She stumbled backward, arms flailing, and for a terrifying moment it seemed as if she would tumble down the steep slope. Fear gripped her completely. Her heart raced, her breath came in short, panicked gasps, and she clung desperately to the edge, praying she wouldn't fall. The canyon, which had seemed so inviting and beautiful just moments ago, now felt like a predator, ready to swallow her whole. From a distance, the rancher noticed the sudden movement. His eyes widened as he saw her stumble, the panic clear on her face. Instantly, all caution gave way to action. He had been watching her from afar, keeping a careful eye on the trails she had been exploring, but he had not expected this. Without hesitation, he sprinted across the uneven terrain, his boots kicking up dust and pebbles, his muscles tense with urgency. He knew that every second counted. The canyon did not forgive mistakes, and he could not afford to waste even a moment. The woman, still clinging to the edge, tried to steady herself. Her hands trembled as they gripped the rough rocks, her nails scraping painfully against the stone. Her mind raced, thinking of all the ways she could lose her balance, of all the dangerous falls she had heard about from guides and hikers. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, and she felt her strength slipping. The thought of falling down the canyon, of not being able to survive the drop, filled her with terror. She screamed, a sharp, desperate sound that echoed off the cliffs. The rancher's voice rang out immediately, calm but commanding. "Hold on, don't move." "I'm coming." His words were steady, meant to cut through her panic and give her a sense of control. She heard his voice and felt a spark of hope amidst the fear. She recognized the strength and certainty in his tone, the same calmness she had seen earlier when he guided her safely down from the edge. She realized that if anyone could help her now, it was him. He moved carefully, placing each foot with precision on the uneven rocks. The canyon was unforgiving, and one wrong step could mean that he would be in danger too. But he had grown up here. He had learned from experience where to step, how to distribute his weight, and how to keep his balance even on the most treacherous paths. He approached the narrow ledge where she clung with an intensity that came from knowing what was at stake. He could see the fear in her eyes, the panic in her trembling hands, and the loose rocks shifting dangerously beneath her feet. Finally, he reached a safe point close enough to extend his hand. "Take my hand," he shouted, his voice carrying over the roar of the wind in the canyon. "I won't let you fall. Trust me." The woman hesitated for a fraction of a second, fear still clouding her judgment. But the sight of his determined, steady gaze reassured her. She saw that he had faced danger before, that he knew exactly what he was doing, and that he would not fail her. With a deep breath, she stretched out her hand. The rancher's grip was strong, firm, and unyielding, giving her the sense of security she had been desperate for. Step by step, he guided her back along the narrow ledge. He instructed her carefully, telling her where to place her feet, how to balance, and when to pause. Every movement required concentration, but the woman began to trust him completely. She felt a mix of fear, relief, and admiration. The adrenaline coursing through her veins made her hyper-aware of every detail, the rough texture of the rock beneath her hands, the wind tugging at her hair, the dizzying drop below. But she knew that with his guidance, she had a chance to survive. As they moved, the rancher noticed a particularly dangerous section ahead. The rock there was cracked and loose. A small misstep could send her tumbling. He slowed their pace even further and moved first, testing the stability of the ground before signaling her to follow. "Careful here," he said. "Don't rush, take it slow." She followed his instructions step by step, relying entirely on his experience. Her fear was still present, but it was tempered by trust. She realized that in this moment she was not alone. Someone capable and strong was with her, willing to risk his own safety to ensure hers. The climb was grueling, exhausting both physically and emotionally. Her muscles burned from the strain of holding on, her hands blistered and scraped from gripping the rocks, and her heart raced uncontrollably. Yet, she pushed forward, driven by a will to survive and by the presence of the rancher beside her. Every step forward was a small victory, a triumph over the fear that threatened to paralyze her. She felt herself growing stronger, not just physically, but mentally as well. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a small, flat ledge that offered relative safety. The woman sank to the ground, gasping for breath, tears of relief streaming down her face. The rancher knelt beside her, checking that she was unharmed, his expression calm but focused. "You're safe now," he said gently. "Take a moment, breathe. The danger is behind us." She looked at him, her chest heaving, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had been moments away from disaster, and he had saved her without hesitation. As she caught her breath, she realized the depth of what had just happened. She had faced a life-threatening situation, and someone had been there to guide her through it. Her fear was still present, lingering like a shadow, but it was mixed with admiration and respect. She looked at the rancher, really looked at him for the first time, and saw not just a strong, capable man, but someone kind, patient, and selfless. He had risked himself to save a stranger, and that act of courage left a lasting impression on her. The rancher helped her to her feet, and together they moved toward a safer part of the canyon. He kept speaking calmly, giving her instructions and encouragement, while she followed closely, leaning on him when necessary. Each step was a reminder of the trust she had placed in him, and each successful move was a small victory over the canyon's treacherous terrain. The woman felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had faced fear, confronted danger, and survived, and she owed her life to someone she barely knew. Once they reached a wider, more stable path, the rancher finally allowed her to rest properly. She sat on a large rock, her hands still shaking slightly, and looked at the canyon stretching endlessly before her. The view that had seemed so inviting earlier now held a new meaning. She had seen its beauty, yes, but she had also experienced its danger firsthand. She realized how easy it had been to underestimate the canyon, how quickly a moment of carelessness could turn into a life-or-death situation. And she realized that the rancher had been her lifeline, her guide, and her protector. For the rancher, the rescue was instinctive, yet he felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that she was safe. He had acted without hesitation, relying on his knowledge, skill, and experience. But he also felt something more, a subtle connection that had formed in the midst of danger. In moments like these, life often revealed its unpredictability, showing how quickly strangers could become deeply important to one another. The woman finally managed to speak, her voice trembling but sincere. "Thank you," she said. I don't know what I would have done without you." The rancher gave a small nod, not needing to say much. His satisfaction came from knowing she was safe, not from praise. But he could see the gratitude and relief in her eyes, and it reminded him why he had always taken care of those who came near the canyon. The canyon, which had threatened to take her life only moments ago, now stood as a silent witness to courage, trust, and the beginning of a bond forged in the face of danger. The woman, still shaken, realized that this encounter had changed something inside her. She had been scared, but she had survived. She had been saved, and in that moment she felt a connection that went beyond simple gratitude. She understood, instinctively, that the rancher's presence had left an indelible mark on her life, a mark that would not fade easily. As they slowly made their way back to safer ground, she glanced at him again, this time with curiosity and admiration, trying to understand the quiet strength that had guided her through the perilous situation. And though neither of them fully realized it at that moment, something had begun, something that would grow and deepen in the days to come, born from courage, trust, and the shared experience of surviving a moment when life hung by a fragile thread. After the terrifying incident at the canyon, the woman finally found herself at the safety of the ranch, her body still trembling from the adrenaline and fear she had just experienced. The rancher led her inside the small, rustic house, where the warm smell of cooked food and fresh hay welcomed her. The contrast between the chaotic, dangerous canyon and the calm, comforting ranch was overwhelming. She felt a sense of relief she could not put into words. For the first time since the fall, she allowed herself to sit, her hands still shaking slightly, her mind replaying every moment of the near disaster. The rancher quietly attended to the animals, his presence calm and familiar. He had always treated his ranch as a sanctuary, a place of order and peace amidst the wildness of nature. Today, that order extended to her safety as well. He prepared a warm meal and poured her a glass of water. His actions were simple, practical, and kind, yet they carried a reassurance that words alone could not convey. She watched him move, noticing the quiet confidence in his steps, the careful way he handled everything, from feeding the horses to stacking the hay. She realized that this same confidence had guided her to safety in the canyon. Over the next few hours, she began to recover, both physically and emotionally. Her legs ached from the climb, and her palms were scraped from gripping rocks, but the worst of her fear slowly receded. The rancher sat nearby, offering a quiet presence rather than overwhelming her with conversation. He understood that some experiences required silence as much as words. Occasionally, he spoke softly, asking if she felt all right or if she needed anything, and each time his voice carried a comforting steadiness. She felt safe in a way she had rarely felt before, and the simple act of being cared for without judgment made her heart swell with gratitude. As the afternoon sun filtered through the windows, she found herself opening up to him in a way she had not expected. She spoke of her life in the city, of her work and routines, of the longing she had felt for adventure and freedom. She laughed softly at the contrast between her busy, structured life and the raw, unpredictable beauty of the canyon. The rancher listened patiently, never interrupting, his eyes calm and steady. There was a quiet understanding in his gaze, as if he recognized the courage it took for someone like her to step outside her comfort zone and face the unknown. For his part, the rancher shared little about himself at first, but his actions spoke volumes. The way he moved around the ranch, how he handled each task with care and precision, and the way he looked after her well-being showed a depth of character that words could not capture. She began to admire him not just for the bravery he had shown in the canyon, but for the quiet strength and reliability he carried in every part of his life. In her eyes, he was more than just a rescuer. He was someone who lived with integrity, someone who understood the land, the risks, and the value of protecting others. As the hours passed, a subtle bond began to form between them. The shared experience of the canyon, the fear, and the relief had created a connection that went beyond ordinary acquaintance. She found herself drawn to his calm presence, feeling a trust that was rare and precious. At the same time, he noticed her curiosity and warmth, her lively spirit that had led her to explore the canyon despite the risks. In that moment, he realized that the canyon had brought them together for a reason, and though he did not yet know what the future held, he felt a quiet sense of purpose in being there for her. In the days that followed, she stayed at the ranch longer than she had initially planned. Each day, she helped with small chores, feeding the animals, carrying firewood, and tidying the barn. The rancher guided her patiently, teaching her how to care for the animals and showing her the practical skills that came naturally to someone who had grown up in the wilderness. She struggled at first, clumsy with the work, but he never criticized or rushed her. Instead, he offered gentle encouragement, celebrating small victories and sharing quiet laughter when mistakes were made. Through this, she began to feel a sense of belonging and accomplishment that she had never known in her city life. Evenings were spent sitting on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the cliffs and listening to the wind rustle through the trees. They would talk about the canyon, about the stars, about life and dreams. She shared stories from her past, and he occasionally spoke of moments from his own life, though always with restraint. Yet in every conversation, there was an unspoken understanding growing between them, a recognition of shared humanity, courage, and the bond formed through trust and care. One evening, as they watched the sky turn shades of orange and pink, she realized how much she had come to depend on his presence. She remembered the terror she had felt on the canyon ledge, and how completely he had guided her to safety. A feeling of deep gratitude began to mix with something more, an admiration and a quiet affection that surprised her. She realized that she did not just respect him for what he had done, but for who he was. There was a reliability in him that made her feel secure, a kindness that made her heart feel lighter, and a strength that made her feel inspired. The rancher noticed subtle changes in her demeanor as well. She moved with more confidence, laughed more freely, and looked at him with a warmth that had not been there before. He felt a quiet satisfaction in seeing her recover, in witnessing her spirit return. Yet beneath that satisfaction, he felt something deeper stirring, a connection that went beyond friendship, born from the shared intensity of life and danger, from the trust and care that had guided them through the canyon. Days turned into a week, and their bond continued to grow. The woman began to understand the rhythm of ranch life, the patience required to work with animals, and the satisfaction that came from hard, honest work. She learned the names of the horses, how to care for them, and how to navigate the land safely. Each lesson brought small moments of joy, shared laughter, and mutual respect. The rancher, in turn, began to appreciate her adventurous spirit, her curiosity, and the way she approached life with energy and openness. Through this time, they discovered the value of shared silence as well. Many hours were spent simply sitting together, observing the land, listening to the sounds of nature, and reflecting quietly. These moments, though unspoken, deepened their connection. The woman felt a sense of peace she had never known, and the rancher felt a quiet pride in showing her the world he loved so dearly. They were no longer just rescuer and rescued. They had become companions in understanding, trust, and the simple beauty of life lived close to nature. One afternoon, as the woman helped the rancher repair a fence along the canyon's edge, she paused to look out over the cliffs. The view was breathtaking, the same view that had once threatened her life, now offering a sense of perspective and gratitude. She realized how much she had learned, not just about survival and the dangers of the canyon, but about herself, courage, and the value of trust. She looked at the rancher, noticing the calm focus in his eyes, the quiet strength in his movements, and the genuine care he showed for everything around him. She felt a growing admiration and something more, a realization that this bond was special, rare, and meaningful. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with warm colors, she turned to him and smiled softly. "I never thought I would find someone like you," she said quietly. The rancher glanced at her, a slight smile forming on his lips. No words were necessary to convey the connection between them. They both knew that something significant had begun, something that had been born out of fear, trust, and care, and that now grew steadily in the quiet, daily moments they shared at the ranch. Evenings passed with shared stories, gentle laughter, and a growing understanding of one another. She felt herself letting go of the fears that had haunted her since the canyon incident. The rancher's calm presence became a source of comfort and strength. They both understood that their bond was no longer just about the canyon, but about the trust and connection they had nurtured in the days since. By the end of the week, it was clear to both of them that something meaningful had begun. The woman, once a stranger to the land and to the rancher, now felt at home. She had been transformed by the experience, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The rancher, who had always lived a quiet, solitary life, discovered a new sense of purpose and companionship. Together, they had faced danger, survived, and now shared a growing connection that neither could ignore. The canyon incident had been a turning point, but the days following it had allowed them to heal, to understand each other, and to build a bond stronger than either could have imagined. It was in these quiet moments, caring for the animals, repairing fences, walking along the trails, sharing meals, that their connection deepened. She realized that gratitude alone was not enough to express what she felt. She was beginning to feel something more profound, something that could only be called trust, admiration, and the earliest stirrings of love. And for the rancher, watching her laugh freely, seeing her grow stronger and knowing she was safe, he realized that he had come to care for her deeply. Not just as someone he had saved, but as a person who had become an important part of his life, a presence that brought warmth and light to his otherwise quiet world. He understood that their bond was no longer just circumstantial. It was real, built from shared experience, mutual respect, and the quiet moments that had passed since that day in the canyon. By the end of this week, both of them knew, without needing to speak, that their lives had changed. The canyon had tested them, fear had brought them together, and care had bound them in a way that would last. They had survived danger, healed from its aftermath, and discovered a connection that neither expected but both cherished. And as the sun set over the cliffs, casting a warm glow over the ranch, they sat together quietly, each aware that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. The days at the ranch had passed quietly, yet each one carried a subtle magic. The woman had recovered fully from the terrifying canyon incident, and her presence had brought a new warmth to the rancher's life. Together, they had shared chores, stories, laughter, and moments of silence that spoke volumes. But beneath the ordinary rhythm of ranch life, something extraordinary was growing, a deep bond, a trust that had been forged in fear and strengthened by care, and an unspoken feeling that both were slowly coming to understand. On a bright morning, the woman woke early, as she had every day since her stay began. The sun spilled gold across the fields, and the birds sang with renewed energy. She stepped outside and found the rancher tending to the horses. Watching him move with ease and confidence, she felt a surge of admiration. There was a strength in him that was quiet yet undeniable, a calm certainty in the way he handled every task. She realized again how much he had done for her, how he had saved her life without a second thought, and how deeply that act had touched her heart. She approached him cautiously, unsure how to express the growing feeling she had kept to herself. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of shyness and warmth. He looked up and smiled, nodding as he handed her a bucket of feed. "Morning. Ready to start the day?" he asked, his voice casual yet steady. There was a rhythm in their interactions now, a comfort that came from shared experience. She nodded, taking the bucket, and together they moved through the morning chores, working side by side. As they worked, she found herself stealing glances at him, noticing details she had never paid attention to before. The way his hands moved with precision, the gentle way he spoke to the animals, the quiet confidence that seemed to radiate from him. Her heart fluttered, a mix of admiration, gratitude, and something deeper she could not yet name. She remembered the canyon, the fear she had felt, and the strength he had shown, and she realized that her feelings were no longer just about gratitude. They were about connection, trust, and the beginnings of love. After the chores were finished, they sat together on a large rock overlooking the canyon. The view was breathtaking, yet it now held a different meaning. The same cliffs that had once been a source of fear now reminded her of courage, trust, and the bond that had formed between them. She turned to the rancher, her heart beating faster than usual. For the first time, she felt ready to express what she had been feeling quietly for days. I don't know how to say this," she began, her voice trembling slightly. He looked at her, his eyes calm and patient, waiting. She took a deep breath, gathering courage. "The day in the canyon, you saved my life. And since then, everything has changed. I've realized I feel something for you, something more than just gratitude. I trust you, I admire you, and I think I care about you more than I expected." The rancher was silent for a moment, absorbing her words. He had always been cautious with emotions, but he knew the sincerity in her voice. He could see it in her eyes, in the way she looked at him with warmth and vulnerability. Slowly, he reached out and took her hand, his grip steady and reassuring. "I'm glad you told me," he said softly. "I've felt the same way for some time, but I wanted to be sure. You've brought a light into my life I didn't realize I was missing. I care about you deeply." Hearing his words, the woman felt a wave of relief and joy. The bond they had built in the quiet days at the ranch, through shared work, conversation, and simple moments of trust, had blossomed into something real and mutual. She smiled, her eyes shining. "From today, I am yours," she said, her words carrying the weight of sincerity, trust, and a promise. The rancher smiled back, a mixture of relief, happiness, and quiet pride in his expression. He gently squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth and connection between them. In that moment, the canyon, the fear, the rescue, and the days that followed all felt like a journey leading to this point. Their bond had grown stronger with each shared moment, and now it was solid, unshakable, and mutual. In the days that followed, their relationship continued to deepen. Life on the ranch remained simple but filled with shared joy. They tended to the animals together, repaired fences, explored the land, and shared meals under the open sky. Every small task became an opportunity to connect, to laugh, and to learn more about each other. She discovered his sense of humor, his patience, and the quiet way he noticed details others might miss. He discovered her curiosity, her kindness, and the gentle way she approached life. Evenings were their favorite time. They often sat on the porch together, watching the sun set behind the canyon cliffs, the sky painted in brilliant oranges, pinks, and purples. The wind carried the scent of pine and earth, and the world felt calm and timeless. They would talk about dreams, hopes, and the future, sharing stories that made them laugh and moments that made them reflect. In these evenings, they found comfort in each other's presence, a sense of belonging that neither had experienced before. One afternoon, they decided to revisit the canyon. This time, it was not out of curiosity or thrill, but as a shared experience of reflection and gratitude. They walked slowly along the trails, hand in hand, careful of the rocks and ledges. The woman felt a mixture of emotions, remembrance of the fear she had felt, gratitude for the courage and skill he had shown, and now joy and love for the man beside her. The rancher guided her safely along every step, but this time there was no panic, no danger, only shared trust and appreciation. As they reached the spot where she had nearly fallen, they paused. The view stretched endlessly before them, as magnificent as ever. She looked at him, her heart full of emotion. "I remember this place," she said softly. "I remember how scared I was and how you saved me, but now I remember it differently. I remember how we found each other, how we trusted each other, and how it changed everything." The rancher nodded, understanding perfectly. "Yes," he said, "this canyon gave us a story, a moment we will never forget. It showed us courage, trust, and care." And it led us here to each other. They stood together in silence for a moment, letting the weight of the canyon, the past fear, and the present bond settle around them. In the weeks that followed, their life together became a rhythm of joy and mutual support. The woman embraced ranch life, finding satisfaction in the hard work, the beauty of nature, and the quiet moments shared with the rancher. The rancher, in turn, found his world filled with warmth, laughter, and the kind of companionship he had never expected. Together, they built a life grounded in respect, love, and shared experiences, a life that celebrated both the extraordinary and the simple. Their connection also grew stronger through small, everyday gestures. He would leave a warm cup of coffee by her side in the mornings, and she would help prepare meals with a smile and quiet affection. They shared stories about their pasts, dreams for the future, and even their fears, knowing that trust was the foundation of everything between them. The canyon incident had been a moment of crisis, but it had also been a catalyst for the growth of something beautiful, lasting, and true. As the months passed, they celebrated small milestones together, planting a new garden, watching the horses race across the fields, or enjoying quiet nights by the fire. Each experience, though ordinary, was filled with meaning because they shared it together. Their love was not dramatic or rushed. It was patient, steady, and deeply rooted in the trust and care they had developed from the moment they first faced danger together. One evening, as the sun set behind the cliffs, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the woman leaned her head on the rancher's shoulder. She felt a sense of peace, contentment, and gratitude she had never known before. "I never imagined life could feel like this," she whispered. "I never imagined I could feel so safe, so happy, so complete." The rancher smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "Life has a way of surprising us," he replied gently. "Sometimes it takes a moment of danger, a leap of trust, and a willingness to care for each other to find what really matters. And I'm glad we found it together." In that moment, the canyon no longer seemed frightening. Instead, it was a symbol of the journey they had taken, the challenge, the fear, the trust, and the bond that had emerged stronger than either could have imagined. They had faced life's uncertainties together, discovered courage, and built a love that was real, grounded, and lasting. From that day forward, the woman and the rancher lived not just as companions, but as partners in life, trust, and love. Their days were filled with work, laughter, and shared experiences, and their hearts were forever connected by the moment when the canyon had tested them both. And every time they looked at the cliffs, they remembered not only the danger and fear, but also the trust, courage, and love that had begun on that unforgettable day. The story of the canyon, the rescue, and the life they built together became their shared memory, a reminder that even in moments of danger, trust and care could lead to something beautiful. From that day on, they faced the world together, hand in hand, hearts united, and lives forever intertwined. And as the sun rose and set over the ranch and the canyon beyond, they knew that their bond, born in fear and strengthened by love, would endure through every challenge, every joy, and every day to come.